Good day, it's Dame from Dame's Place. I'll show you some plants. We got some, it's the end of season sale, so we got some 2 for $1. Look around wherever you live, look around right now because the stands and the big places are selling their plants for really super cheap, and they might look bad, but you'd be surprised if you rinse them off and clean up the roots real good that they'll be okay. I hope this isn't too loud. I do research on my family history and history in general, American history. I like worldwide, national, international history. You used to be happy you won at Jeopardy. Now you're like, ooh, I don't know, all that stuff's correct. So when we found out about how many lies there were, which in my family we knew there were many. My father was a writer. My family, my great grandfather 4 times up is Horatio Spafford, and I put a few posts up about him in the last 2 days. Oh, for years though, because I just found out about him in the last few years, but ever since I did. And he was an inventor, a polymath, an intellectual. And if you look back at just my last couple posts, there's good links for Horatio Gates Spafford Sr., Horatio Gates Spafford Jr. from Jerusalem of the It Is Well With My Soul. That's a hymn about losing his family, and he started a utopian society after the Chicago fire of 1871. It's almost like an American tragedy, but I feel like I might be bumming you out sometimes. But history is what it is, and like Kay Griggs said, past is prologue. And what I'm reading about in the case of my family during the changing times and how history repeats itself over and over. I knew he wrote the Canal Guide of New York. Well, there were hundreds of canals as I read through it, hundreds of canals. And the Erie Canal opening would be opening the old system that was already there. And, they're not building it, they are founding it. It actually said 3,000 people west of the Genesee River at the time that he was there. And he used his money. They write really poorly, like he wasn't good with money, and the government gave him loans for his New York Gazetteer. He also wrote 2 of those, one in 1813 and his second edition in 1824. And he was a Quaker. He was very religious. He was raised, not religious, but believed in Christ. He was raised to be in the military. His father was in the military, and his grandfather was John Spafford of the Revolutionary War. So, and that's why he has the name Gates. It was named after the Gates that was in the Revolutionary War, but Horatio Gates. But it's just a namesake because they were friends, and he respected him in the war, in the Revolutionary War. That not Seth Gates. That guy's from Warsaw. That Horatio Gates went against George Washington in the Revolutionary. There was a big the Conway affair, they call it, where that Conway snitched and told that Horatio Gates had said he wasn't good in the war, like he wasn't doing a good job because he was really older then, and whatever that you can Wikipedia, it was a big thing, but that's not my grandfather. That guy on the money, he's on like the $500 bill. That's not mine. Mine is was just named for him. So he's a Spafford, and he wrote the Canal Guide. So there's canals everywhere. He was a polymath. Which means he was good at so many things. He came up with a wheel carriage patent. He has letters to Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, and you can tell that he's going through it on the up and up, that this country is going forward. The patent system should work, though it hasn't. With the canals, they wrote, with the Gazetteer, they said they gave him $2,000 for that purpose, to make the Gazetteer. And if they did, it didn't matter. He used $17,000 of his own money that they never reimbursed him for. He couldn't even get free travel. And I really encourage you to look at the canal system. On the last post, one of the links to his book, or just go look it up. I can't, I don't even have his books. I can't wait to get his books. I can't wait to get a grant going so that I can set up a library for him. He had a library in Otsego, but that's in New York, and I live on the other side of the country. So during that time, though, this history time, I had read some bad things about family members, and then I have a whole side of my family I don't even know. My mother's father's side, I don't know them at all. They're the cattle ranchers down in Florida, and I don't know them one bit. But what was that? It looked like something fell. Make sure there was nothing in there. Shoot, it looks like they're coming back over here. Okay, so what I wanted to tell you was Cahoon. I talk about now. One of the Cahoons went west, went to Utah with Joseph Smith, and his brother was Wilbur, and he owned land in New York in Herkimer County that he was trying to farm. And because he was getting so many Herkimer diamonds up in it, he traded it for 800 acres in Avon, Ohio, and he started his own town there. That was basically his town for those 800 acres. He timbered it and had a grist mill. He did grist mills. They did blacksmithing. Cahoon came over as an indentured servant up the line through Block Island. And Gardeners are my cousins. Gardeners Island. Look at that. That goes up to, like, you can look at Lawrence Gardner, the writer about, he writes about a lot of different things with the Holy Family and different ideas on that. And that's Gardener's Island, and they say that the natives, the Narragansett or the Montauk, and that would be like David Farrow, which is we're related to, sold him that, like, he made a deal for the land, you know, and that's in the 1600s. Like, that's the oldest privately owned island in America, I believe. So that was disturbing, because you're going to be like, because I have grandpas that are native too. I have grandmas that are native. I'm both. I'm mixed. And you think of it like in a couple of different ways. Well, I want you to know that's all going on now when you see somebody from another country of great wealth and vast things marrying into another family of that. Like here, that happens everywhere. That's always been going on. You can call them arranged marriages or not, or, you know, in some ways they are, in some ways they aren't, but it's one big club and we're not in it. And they're going to marry each other, okay? And they're going to keep that going. And when in the United States, Thomas Jefferson wouldn't come off on slavery, my grandpa was an abolitionist. He was also he published many newspapers, and he was an anti-Masonic guy. So he published those things too. Not just that, but that was he was Quaker, and he was with Christ. And I know there's bad things written about Quakers, but I've read his works, and I know that there's always good people in every religion that are there to do the work of the people, for the people, by the people, for God, for Jesus, to live well and care for the land and the animals in it and stuff like that. Mother Earth. So to me, it seems he was trying to do that, as much as he could. He was dead by the time he was 47 and came up with the Bessemer iron ore process, which is a way of, I think, blowing air through the iron ore to get things that you don't want in it out. And they sat on that for 30 years. And the letters to the presidents, he's saying that. And Jefferson was his friend, and they write that he was pleading with him for money and stuff. He really wasn't. He wanted him to come to the light in the fact that the system that he was working under. Thomas Jefferson was born into a plantation society. My grandfather was not. They were from Vermont. They were Green Boys up the line, Green Mountain Boys of Vermont. And so the Cahoons, when I looked at them, the Spafford was looking for a son. He had a in a long ago post, I have a newspaper article that he put up as a wanted poster for his son, $100 reward to return him to his family. And the canals were everywhere. Every farmer had canals to load up his goods and send them out to the bigger canal. The Erie was going to take things, but those canal systems had been flooded in when whatever happened that made the Great Lakes form. I'm not talking the Ice Age. I'm saying like more recently, like the flood or the deluge, whatever you want to call it. That timing, okay. He did the canal guide, and the houses of my family, his cousin in Warsaw, that Seth Gates is one, and the houses in the Cahoon family all the way up to the lake where I'm telling you, Avon, Ohio, that goes to Lake Erie and Bay Village, they were moving people. Now, I'm not saying that everybody was, but there were houses on the Underground Railroad that were known for that of Cahoons. You knew to go to the Cahoon's house, and they had signs outside, just like my grandfather, Anthony Horsch. He's going to help you. You're on the railroad. He's helping you get to freedom. He's helping you get there. Horatio Spafford makes the canal guides, ways to get out of New York from other places that you had to get to the lake and get up through maybe the St. Lawrence Canal. Maybe you could get to Canada. But as well, Now, these other cousins built a castle, or they didn't build it. Everybody's not building it. They're just coming here and buying it, just like they are now. What do you think? In 5 years, they're not going to look at some of these big castles that someone owns and say, oh, yeah, they've owned it for years because the town is resettled and no one knows that was Red Jackets. That was Red Jackets Castle, not the Bellhurst, inn that you stay at. And I think that's on, I don't know if it's on Seneca or Canandaigua Lake, but you can look at the Bellhurst. Beautiful place. Medina sandstone, those things are cast from the ground up most of the time, and what they're telling us is just when they're fixing them, they're repairing, they're putting their cornerstone on, But, so they're all in this movement, and they're actually trying to move people on the Underground Railroad out. Now, interestingly, when I was looking at the part in Rochester, New York, I'm also a Carroll, and there was a Carroll that settled Rochester with Nathaniel Rochester and Charles Carroll. These people, now I don't know this from my family, this is from looking it up. I know parts of this, but not like the major parts where you'd say, oh yeah, they settled it. They just say we've been here forever. And settling is no insult. There were 3,000 people there was 3,000 people in Buffalo in 1813, I think. And around that same time, there was less in Rochester. And it just looks, John Levy put a post up yesterday with pictures on it, and it's like empty. It's totally empty, basically. And you could look at cities after, in the last 6 years, there's plenty of cities that look empty, downtowns that look empty all over our country. And I don't know what it's like other places, but I know that they would say, we just came in and there was no one here. There was only like 300 people here. Of course, whoever comes in, that's going to be their town next, and that's just how it came about this way. So 2 things I found out. One was that the Holland Land Office Museum that's always lied to my family. My grandfathers tried to get the records on all of this for years and years. And, they had a fire, they had this, they had that, they had that. They're rewriting the history in that area for sure. And all of the stories that come to us in our country and about building and about how it was and stuff, go back to these old, I wouldn't have known to even look up my grandfather, Horatio Spafford. I never heard of him. So I wouldn't have known to look at him. And then when you read what he wrote, he's telling you the truth. He's telling you about not only auras around mice, like how cats can detect temperature. He did a test with a cat, and he warmed up a piece of lead, like in the shape of a mouse, and put it in a dark room, and the cat came to the heat. Because it was dead. It's lead. It's dead. It's not giving the aura, but the cat could detect the heat. He did things like that. He did lose an animal, and that is so weird and gross, but he was just a scientist, and that wasn't his normal thing. Normally, he was trying to figure out the heating systems when they were throwing logs in the fire of these big old mansions, and they had those 2 like conductor things and all of those fancy, beautiful, look at the Newport Gold Coast homes and the Astor's homes and Vanderbilt's and the Biltmore, and you'll see the inserts in the fireplaces. Sometimes you see those for sale. I'd buy one. Who knows if you could figure it out, some way to use it in a different way other than just like a paperweight, but maybe for what it was used for. But he was writing about the systems that were used at the time that were in swing and coming around again, because you see, if you watch some of these YouTube channels, they're showing these towns. They go town to town. There's this guy like Pete Santangelo or something like that. Peter Santangelo something. Look up that name, and him and his wife go around the United States and showcase villages and tell you about the town, wherever it is, all over the place. And, that's the selling of America. That's real estate. They're telling people that are coming here to move here because it's a great country. This is what is here. This is the good things about the town and the not so good things about the town, and that's what's going on. And that's why you see so many of these historical societies with all new pages and stuff. And I write on them all the time. And some places where do answer and they talk, but it's clear to me that it's the same people. They just rewrite history. So I can't say that I've sent anything out official to a museum I've sent like regular emails to a couple family museums, like the Cahoon Museum, the Ralph Cahoon and Martha Cahoon Museum in Massachusetts, but not anything official yet. So I can't say they would never do that, but I can tell you that the interest on those pages, there's none. I mean, the Erie Canal, there's an Erie Canal Association Foundation on Facebook, whatever it is, and I've written to them and said, this is my grandfather, he wrote the Canal Guide, and I'd be so interested in learning more if you had anything on him. And it's just like, nothing. That's cool. They say, that's cool. Like, okay, whatever, That's how it is. And they were telling him the same thing. He was like so gaslit, and then they did do the things that he said. And I think that's why his son came out, the one that went to Jerusalem. He had seen such harsh reality at their family, and there was the first mother died, and it was sad. There's 2 sets of kids in that family. My grandma's from the first set, and that Horatio Spafford Jr. is from the second set. He's younger than my grandmother. But they came to visit in Batavia. There's pictures of them in Batavia at my grandparents' house and stuff. So anyway, I was ripping my eyes out at some of the relatives that I had that had plantations in the South, that in my research I read, and that are still there. Still completely there, still the same families, still the same money, never lost a thing. The one that I was most worried about is John C. Calhoun. I don't want to be related to him, quite frankly, because it just, it's just like, oh my God, it's not your fault though. When there's you do the best you can. That's a sign. But come to find out, there were all these cahoons, and it's known. If you put it in, they helped with the Underground Railroad and letting the people go through and getting them to the good spot. But at that Warner Castle, my apologies, I'll make it quick. So there's this Warner Castle at Cobb's Hill Park in Rochester, or Highland Park. They join up, and I used to live there as a little girl. I lived right down the hill from it. And the castle's like I think it's my second cousin 14 times back, or first cousin 14 generations back, whatever it is. It's a lot. And no one knew. I used to play in that. They have a sunken garden there. Look at it. I used to play there as a kid and had no idea. I used to take my daughter. I didn't take her there a lot. I took her there and showed her. I worked the Lilac Festival there every year. Had no idea. This is my cousin's founded castle. Now it's like a historical society, Genesee Valley Historical Society or something like that. I contacted them too. No reply. Frederick Douglass, the civil rights man, was Frederick Douglass, I think, was born free, but I don't remember right now. But he went to Europe and fought for abolition. He was an abolitionist, probably one of the most famous in our country's history. His house was across the street from that Warner's, and that Warner, when people went to Frederick Douglass for help, say on the Underground Railroad, they had to hide from the castle because he had a tower and everything. They hid to get around across the street to Frederick Douglass's house, to then he would help them, because you have the Underground Railroad goes all through New York, through the Great Lakes. There's tunnels through the Great Lakes, through look at Watkins Glen, Letchworth, Utica, all those places. And there's castles still up. There's a lot of castles still up, and those are all connected, that you could move people up through there and stay there. And I always loved this place in Wyoming County, this little gaslight village, and there was an artist community up there, and they said that they had helped slaves a lot. And I don't believe that's all the same either. These are people that were on their own property. Blacks are natives. Black people are natives. Not everybody, but to say that they weren't and not think that this isn't a complete just psyop on us, what the story that they told us about how things began and stuff would be, nobody believes that anymore. So in my little way, I'm just going to keep chipping away at the little things I can find. And that was a little boost, because on both sides, I have people on the Confederate side and people on the Union side. But my family, my mother's family and my father's family, direct, who I know, who raised me, my grandmas, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, none of them are racist. Even the wads in Rochester that screwed me over, even them, they would pretend they're not, but they are, because they're crypto. And I didn't know that. But you can't beat yourself up over what you didn't know. And when they're all in it together, I've done many posts. So anyway, that's it. It was a pep talk. Good things happen. So don't ever believe all the bad things that you might read about your family. They're not true. They make it look so bad for everybody. You shouldn't be proud of who you are. And Geronimo should have fought harder. And Sassacus was a fool. He shouldn't have gone over there, those Mohawks. Yeah, I know. We all know. It's going on now. So be easy on yourself. Enjoy your day. Get your garden growing. And, keep your health up. All these smart people were dead at 57, 47, 50. Too young for that. We need old souls to help these kids get through to the next level, man. All right. God bless. Peace.